Hey guys, here we are. My name is Başak.
We are here. My name is Kate.
Hey, this is our first episode, Kate, of We Women Enlightened.
Exactly.
How
Women
are you feeling?
enlightened. I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited about this new venture we are into. We've been talking for a while doing something like this, and I'm just so excited because, well, I guess this is the first episode. We need to introduce ourselves, who we are. But I think what inspires us is our friendship and the things that we talk about, how we inspire each other. So I hope that's what comes up in this.
I agree. I agree because I feel our conversations get deep quite quickly, and sometimes I wish we record some of our conversations because I could go back to them. So I'm hoping that this inspires people, makes people question things, and we'd love people to respond to these conversations too. So we'll get to that later in some
We'll
form of
get to
fashion.
that. So let's
Yes.
little bit of a information about who we are, right? So my name is Başak. I was born in Istanbul, Turkey,
Woo!
and then I've been in New York really for over 30 years, being an American citizen for over 20 years. And I've started my journey as an engineer, worked in corporate world for over 30 years, and literally play the game, rise up to the nice place that looked successful from the outside, did a lot of achievements as a woman in corporate environment, being the, person in the boardroom that has some power, but dealt with a lot of difficulties. But I was always searching for spirituality and went through many different journeys until I found yoga. And then I found home. And I became a yoga teacher, then a yoga therapist, which where we met in a training.
Yep.
And right now, that's what I do full time. I'm a yoga therapist, yoga teacher. I teach meditation, breath work, philosophy, Sanskrit, all that kind of stuff. And I have a totally different life. So that's where I am. That's where I'm here for, and to share what I got, what I gained, and to learn more from it.
Yes.
How
It's
about
all
you?
about learning. So I was born in America, but I grew up in London, but then came back here. So I have a slight English accent, people sometimes say. So I went to school, and after school, I've always been searching. I've done so many different jobs. I worked at an auction house. I worked as an actress. I worked at a bank as an assistant for someone. I've just done so many different things. I ran a charity for many years. That's sort of where I settled. A charity that took theater to children's hospitals called Only Make Believe, which look it up. It's a great charity. It's a little plug. But that's where I started to feel really at home, like I was giving back. I knew I wanted to give back. And through all this was yoga. It was always there, it was always the safe place, because it was a physical, spiritual, all combined. You really felt like when those days you were really stressed, that was a place that I could go and really recover. Anyway, so that was always weaved in. And then after I finished my job at the charity, the not-for-profit, I decided I needed to become a yoga teacher. So
Here
voila.
we are.
That's it. And then that's how we met.
That's how
Um,
we met. Do you remember the day we met?
I do. Do
So do I.
you? Well, how I remember it, because everyone's point of view is slightly different, right? I remember walking into this class. We were studying, what was it studying? What was the class?
Yoga therapy, but I don't know
Yes, but
which.
was it a specific? Anyway, it was, yes, to get our yoga therapy license, the beginning. Great program. Um, Dana Slamp, very
Prema
great.
Yoga Therapy, Therapeutics. Little
Yes,
plug-in.
yes, she's wonderful. Great program. Anyway, I walked in, and I think I was a little late, or I was one of the last people to walk in, and everyone was sort of all over the place with their stuff. And for whatever reason, and this is an interesting thing, for whatever reason, I just looked straight and I saw Bashak. I don't know if she looked up and we met eyes, or I just saw her and I was like, I'm going to sit next to that woman. And then we sat next to each other and we had to do all these kind of exercises during that first day. And I remember writing down your name and putting an SH in the middle. So I would remember to say Bashak.
Thank you for that because that's always point of, I wouldn't say contention, but it's an interesting point that everybody tells my name differently. Basak, Basak, Bashak. So I have to always pronounce and spell for people. There is a dot under S, people, that makes it sh. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I don't mind. Everybody tells my name differently in
Even your
turn,
husband,
in
even your
time.
husband can't get it
Well,
right.
my husband still cannot tell my name, which is fine. The way I remember it,
Mm,
I saw you coming in,
mhm.
and there was a thought in my mind, like a little thought bubble. I want her to sit next to me. I really wanted you
That's
to
so
come in
funny.
next to me.
I don't think you've ever told me that. I don't think you've ever
Yeah,
told me that. No?
just remembered now.
Mhm.
I'm
You're
sorry.
okay.
A little bit of allergies, of seasonal allergies coming in. But I think that's something that really brings us to the topic of today, yoga of friendship,
Yes.
right? So we will talk about that a little bit more. What does that mean to us? But there is this idea of, energy calls energy, right? Energy attracts energy. Somehow we were both attracted to each other. And of course, there's a common shared interest here. We are in a yoga room,
Right.
the same training, that we have a similar ideas about why we are there, right? So there is this therapeutic aspect where we want to actually serve. We want to participate in people's journeys of healing. So there is
Right.
that common understanding, sensibility. But also, if you look at our lives, we are both married in a later age.
Hmm.
We are both kind of I guess not born here, but you're born here, you left, but we still have that little bit of a sharedness of coming into this country and
Hmm.
really trying to make something in this country. And then also, we both don't have children.
Yeah.
We never had children, and we both have an amazing dogs that we love
We have dogs
cherish as
instead.
our daughters, right?
Yep.
Pom and Nelly.
Yep.
So without knowing each other, there is already so much that was in common. What
Right.
do you think about that?
That's a difficult question. This is how I'll answer it. I think there's an immediate, with someone that's going to be a close friend, there's definitely a feeling of the souls, like recognizing each other, and then in order for the friendship to continue to flourish, because friendships are work,
Yeah.
that all those things that you mentioned, those similarities have helped it grow and deepen, because sometimes I have had friends, actually, I'll do a little segue to this. I have a friend, very good friend still, who we were very good friends, but when she had children, I think she was so overwhelmed. She sort of felt like, I don't think our friendship would really work anymore because you don't have children. And I was adamant. I was like, I'm not going anywhere,
That's sad.
I
Oh,
know,
good
but
for
I
you.
understood why she said that, I totally understood why, because I couldn't relate to a lot of the stuff. But I knew that we were bonded, and I knew in some way I wanted to stay in her life. So we may have, sort of went apart a bit, but then we've come back together now that the children have grown, and so I think that's interesting.
Don't you feel that, especially the friendships we made when we are younger, when we are children,
Mm.
somehow those friendships are the most purest form of friendships, and you can just separate from each other for years and years and do your journeys and then
Oh
come back and
no, you
nothing
just
changed, and that
froze.
they,
Froze for a second, Bashak. I'm sorry, you just froze. I don't know if that was your
oh,
internet
I
or
did.
mine. Yeah, that's okay.
Oh. How is
Okay.
it now?
It's okay.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
it's okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
I always find that fascinating that, I guess we are much purer when we are children, right? We are not yet influenced by external social, familial, societal conditioning yet. So we know each other as who we truly are from our
Mm,
essence,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
those relationships that's why maybe they stay present in your life, whatever changes that you're going through.
yep.
So
And
I think the question is, how do you bring that feeling, that energy into your friendships now?
it's a very good question. Do you have an answer?
We're gonna find out. Well, I wanted to just bring a quote that I really love
Hmm.
about friendship, and I'm going to quote Rumi here, and I'm going to read this. This is what he says: "A friend knows the song in your heart and can sing it back to you when you have forgotten the words. I'll say it again. A friend knows the song in your heart and sing it back to you when you have forgotten the words.
So that's beautiful. And it immediately makes me think about this being recognized, like this whole idea of that. Well, first of all, that how we cannot we cannot look at ourselves. Like, we never see ourselves. We see a reflection of ourselves, right? But we can never really see ourselves. So in our friends, we see ourselves, we see who we really are. And so that sense of, and we're reminded who we are. That's why it's so nourishing to be with friends, because when you're feeling separated from yourself and not well, not happy, confused, you go to friends because they remind you who you are, you know?
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. So in a way that the friendships transcend the almost the surface level dynamics and become more depth, more deep, more
Yes.
loving, more shared conversations, right? It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
In yogic tradition, yoga is the word yoga means the union, right? It comes from the yuj, the to yoke,
Yoke.
to unite, right? So everything is interconnected in according to yoga. So, and the energy between people is really reflection of the energy within somebody, right? Because we only are able to experience what we put out there. In other words, nothing is happening to us. We are creating that energy in the sense that through our experience, knowledge, if we are connected to our essence, who we are,
Oh, yeah.
then we can attract people who are connected to that, and vice versa, of course. What do
I
you
see.
think?
Yeah, I see. So you're saying so that if I am feeling, or so if I'm connected to who I am, like I really know who I am, at that point, that's the time where I'm going to connect to other people who uh, are going to
From
be,
that place, right? Because
yes, yeah,
if we are connected in a very deeper sense with our human connection, regardless of our what the facade looks like, our lifestyles, or again maybe jobs or interests, they help, like you just said, they help to sustain the friendship maybe. But in the essence, if we are interconnected and if we can really try to find those connections through our essence rather than our external,
right.
then there is a little bit more depth.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually what you're making me think, so it's interesting. It's like, well, we were just actually on a yoga retreat together, and you have a bunch of people who don't know each other, and like these things happen, we all do it. You make judgments, good, bad, whatever, about just because of the way person talks, they look, whatever you do. And then it's so fascinating. And it's like being if you studied acting and you're with an acting group, you have all these judgments about people. Once you spend time with people, once you really start to understand who they are, it opens up. It doesn't mean that you're going to be best friends with a person. I mean, that's another thing we're talking about. We're talking about best friends. Are we talking about just relationships with people that are supportive friends, kind of on the further? Anyway, you suddenly realize how much potential there is for friendship, a much wider potential in connecting to people, and that because I think some people think, oh, I have three best friends and that's it. But I think from what you're saying, when you really try to connect to somebody's essence, there's a lot of support out there, much more support than we are led to believe.
And what you say also is interesting. You talked about, when we spend some time and get interested in knowing others rather than just looking at them from superficially from how they present themselves, right? And there might be so many judgments that comes, from both ends, or so many effort to present a certain persona. But if we can go below that, so what does that mean to me is to really be vulnerable, right? To be able to really express your truth, your vulnerability, and then you can actually create this concept that we call it in yoga sangha,
Mm,
right? In a sense of kind of a community where like-minded souls on a spiritual journey, because we are all spirit souls, right? Let's just put this out there. We are not just this physical body, this mind that is temporary. Everything is temporary, but there's a deeper soul within. So if we can really shed this external and really try to connect to someone from that internal vulnerable heart space, then you're right, the sisterhood starts to build. And I feel that very strongly. This is in a way unique to female friendships, because that sisterhood that's called is really based on this like deep trust and respect and support, and just focusing on each other's well-being,
yeah.
and being vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a very good point on all, and you say it so beautifully. Vulnerability is a difficult thing, you know. It's a difficult thing to be vulnerable. Um, Women may, I don't know, I can't make any judgments, but it's just a difficult thing, and I don't know how. So my question to you, I guess, is how does one cultivate vulnerability in a
I
safe
feel that,
way?
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great question.
Mm,
We hear that word a lot, even in every relationship, even relationship with your partner. To be
mhm.
vulnerable is the key to create a deeper bond. I feel that vulnerability requires trust,
Yeah,
right?
trust.
And also compassion, not just for yourself, but for the other person too, that they are going through their process.
Right.
So that compassion and trust that you are being held, right? And I'm not saying you're being held by somebody else. No matter what, you hold yourself
Mm,
first, right?
mm, right.
And if we can create this like deeper bond within ourselves, it's a beautiful, I'm going to find this. There's a quote in Bhagavad Gita, the most revered text of yoga. It says, hold on, I wrote somewhere. It says, one's self equipped with knowledge and wisdom is the ultimate friend.
Say it again. Say it again.
Oneself equipped with knowledge and wisdom is
Hmm.
the ultimate friend. So this
Yeah.
brings up this idea of then, what is that wisdom and knowledge? Where do we acquire that? I think yoga presents this beautifully as swadhyaya,
Mm.
self-study,
Buddy, right. Hmm.
right?
Well, I
So
love that. I love the idea of studying. So you're studying yourself, self-study, and you're trying to become friends with yourself, which is just a beautiful thing, you know? I mean, so many people, if you think about all the negative things that you say to yourself or people do, like, I know, how can you ever accomplish anything or do anything or love anybody if you have all those negative thoughts? So the first step is become friends with yourself.
and I love that, when
Mm,
when the compassion is in picture, right? Then we are creating each other this space so that we are felt seen and heard.
yeah,
And you said that word beautifully, like
yeah,
seen. To be seen is so important,
yeah, yeah,
right? To be seen and heard. If we
right.
can think that this is the space I want to create. And I'm not going to use my friends really for, excuse my French, dumping ground.
Yes.
Just to dump my emotions and uninformed thought patterns and all that. And there's nothing wrong with really offloading to somebody, but also there has to be some accountability in that, a little bit of awareness that what am I doing? And maybe for a little bit you can do it, but then there's an understanding that I'm not going to also influence somebody else's energies and space with negativity.
Right, right. Actually, you just made me think of something else when we were sort of talking or thinking about this topic. I was thinking about the balance of friendship, and I was thinking of in I think in the U.S. they call it a teeter-totter, but most places they call it seesaw, seesaw. And then I realized it's see and saw, like seeing someone. It's even though that's not what it comes from, it is though. It's like see and I saw her and I see him and I saw her, and it's this idea of seeing each other and then trying to find the balance, of here we are. And then some days, you're down and then the other one's up, and but that's what it is. You're helping each other, trying to find that equilibrium. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And that brings me to ritual of friendship.
Oh, nice.
In yoga, there's this idea of rituals, right?
Lots of
And
them.
lots of them.
I
But
can't keep them all
there's a beauty
straight.
in it, right?
What?
There's a beauty in ritual, uh, because it brings, I think, a little bit of, we are all looking for consistency in life. We talk about balance in life, right?
Right.
So that consistency comes sometimes with the ritual too. So for me, it comes with like regular check-ins with your friends, with,
Yes.
again, heartfelt conversations. You know, haven't you had this experience like you are meeting somebody for the first time or maybe whatever few times, and the minute that you shared something about yourself that is real, that is little bit maybe deep, and that person opens up immediately and shares back at you like,
Yeah.
so that's just beautiful that that to take that ownership, right? Like not waiting for someone to start first, right?
And it's like when you said it there, it's like an offering. You're making like an offering to the altar of friendship by just saying, this is how I really feel. Yeah.
And I feel that part of the ritual is also common experiences, right? I mean, for us, this is easy. We just yoga, meditation. I mean,
But we do other
for me,
stuff though. We do
huh?
other stuff.
Of course, theater, going to
Yes.
theater and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But here is the thing. In this retreat that we just spent in Spain, I think the most cherished moments for me was when you and I woke up at dawn,
Yes.
very early,
Very early.
5:30, and
Yeah.
went to the yoga studio where it was beautiful with this beautiful glass looking outside to nature, mountains, and the sea. And we meditated before the day started together. And it's such a beautiful time because it's something that we are not, in a way that we are not doing together, right? Meditation is a very personal experience, but we are in the same space sitting side by side. There's this power in that. There's
Yeah.
this shared, quiet presence in that.
Right. Right. And I
Yeah.
felt like we were just beautiful. Thank you for saying that. I also felt like we would change the space by
Oh,
doing that, by sitting there together. It was very powerful. And then once we finished meditating, all these other people would come in and the main yoga class would start, but I would feel like zzz, we were on this plane ready to go.
yes.
It was
Because
really
we set intention in a way that from the early on with this connection, right?
yeah.
We
Yeah.
keep coming back to this connection, but
Yeah.
also like, female friendships are not just social connections. I mean, they can be, obviously,
Okay, yeah.
but they are also reflection of this divine feminine energy we call Shakti in yoga circles, right? This is like, I think, the opportunity for us to really bring that divine energy within each other, support our growth, celebrate, the joyful moments, and also create space and compassion to for each other's also difficult moments as
Right.
well.
Right. Very important. Very important. Um, I think that's the quote that I was looking at by Oscar Wilde. It's a very long quote, and he was so amazingly brilliant. But basically, he wrote this when he was in jail and had a lot of time to think. And he was saying that a real friend is someone who allows me to share their sorrow. Because you do have friends that are just like, no, 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 I can't tell you what, it's just bad. But, and he said, he was really saying, that's the most that's a real test of friendship, that you allow me in and let me grieve with you and let me hold you and be there with you. And I think that's it's just beautiful. Yeah.
I'm going to take it to a different place. What
Okay.
do you think
We're
about?
coming up, we have only just a little bit longer, so just so you know, for our time.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to respect everybody's time too.
Yeah.
And listeners, thank you for listening. Please send us questions and comments. We'd love to hear from you. Um, But there's this other idea that, not every friendship survives, right? Certain friendships are there for a while, that kind of, is helpful, nourishful, lovely, and then they disappear. And sometimes this dangerous word comes in, envy between friends.
Mm, mm, mm.
Have you ever experienced that?
I have to think
or
about that. I
jealousy or
mean,
something like
yeah,
that?
you know, I'm sure I have, but I'm sure oh, I do have a quick, do we have time quickly? This is interesting. I'll be trying to be very quick. In high school, someone that I was very, very good friends with, I was going to be interesting. Anyway, and this friend found God, and I felt that she was more interested in God than me. And I was, can you be envious of God?
Well, I
If you
think
believe
we
in
are
God,
all.
whatever you believe in, but I felt abandoned.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that
That's so
interesting?
beautiful. Yes, I think the answer to that is that's why we are in this probably dimension, having a human experience, because at some point we must have envied God and wanted to take into our hands for control.
That's interesting.
Every day,
Yeah.
actually, if I catch myself trying to control something or get a certain outcome, I say to myself now, whoa, am I trying to be God?
I
Right?
like that.
So I think there is a part of that. That's a very, I think, kind of a high
I know.
example of that.
Yeah.
But I feel that it does happen sometimes, especially in feminine relationship. I feel men are easier to overcome some of that
Yeah.
and not really go deep into certain things and just kind of keep that. And I don't want to say man or every man in every relationship, please
Of
don't.
course not. Of course not.
But I'm generalizing, which I
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
generalization. I don't know why I'm doing that.
So
But
how does one deal with that, do you think
that's the
then?
beauty. I think it
Yeah.
comes up in every friendship, time to time, because it's
Hmm.
in our nature, right? We are
Hmm.
always looking to improve ourselves, our lives, whatever it is. And somebody close to us have a victory or have something success in their lives. Maybe time to time that comes up in us, like, oh, how come I don't have what she's having, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
then I think in those moments, it's again, I go back to yoga to return to yourself to say, bravo, that's what she did successfully. What is my journey? Maybe I get inspiration from that. And then I can maybe express it in my way for my conditioning.
Yep, yep,
So I think that's the kind
yep.
of like taking the attention from why she or why not me to
Right,
what else can I serve, can I present?
right, right. And as use it as inspiration, as you said, be
Yes.
inspired by your friends and be joyful for their successes. Um, it can
Yeah.
be difficult, but it's a good
Yeah.
practice. And what do you do? You're transforming how you're looking at that person. By doing that, you're making it. You're transforming what your mind is labeling it, and you're saying, "No, I'm not going to look at it that way. I'm going to look at it this way." And then suddenly that frees you up, and that's
Yes.
what
That's
we're
the
all
whole
looking for.
idea. How can I be for more free, right?
Free. I think we have to wrap ourselves up. I'm
I know
sorry.
there's so much to say about this subject, but maybe
I
another
know.
time. So, how do we finish this conversation?
How do we finish? So, what I'm going to call my own work, not my home,
I love
my
that. Homework.
own work is to, first of all, maybe connect with some friends that I haven't connected with for a while, either by email or text just to say hi, how you doing? Um, and I think that's what my homework is. I feel like there's a few friends I haven't talked to in a while that I just need to check in with. So
I
that's my,
love that.
what
I
about
can
you?
take that
What's
on
your
too.
own work?
One other homework I'm going to give myself to is to connect to someone I haven't connected. Even though she may be around my circle already, I may know her, but maybe I haven't really connected. Maybe I haven't opened myself enough to, and see what is there, what is possible.
Nice, nice, because then you just, yeah, who knows? Maybe that's your best friend and you found her. Whatever that means. I don't know.
Whatever that means.
That's a whole
Great.
other conversation.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. It was wonderful again, talk to
It
you.
was wonderful talking
And
to you.
I'm
Should we have
going
a little,
to see you in a week,
in a week, we shall meet
maybe
here
earlier.
again. Yeah. Shall
Yes.
we have a little outro music, maybe? Oh,
Yes.
there we go. Bye, Bashak.
Bye. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye bye.